Welcome back, Wargamers! Miniature Monday for December 5th, 2022. This month has been busy. It's only the the fifth day, duh. But all last week, especially, and the last few days of November, there were 4 videos that we put together on the Blood Red Moon battle, the sack of Gastelu Mugatik. I will finish that battle shortly, as the players are looking for a way out of this predicament through the dungeons below the keep. These dungeons are extensive, and the party has just found a legendary location that I only have a vague idea of what it actually represents. I do know the history and what it does and where it leads, but the details are yet to be determined, so I'll write that up on Thursday. But as I said, I will finish the battle with minis. Well, really, they're Scrabble tiles. And just, I wanted to give you a little example of what we've done. So I took Scrabble tiles. I've been going to Goodwill stores and secondhand stores and picking up Scrabble boxes for $2 or $3. Each one of those has 100 of these little tiles. And if you put them face down and spray paint them, you get army tokens, which is very exciting. And I have painted these up in assorted colors, gray, as you can see, and blue, which will allow for battles for Civil War. And then we also have blue and red, so we can do Napoleonics. And then I have some yellow ones, I have some white ones, and I have some black ones that will be used for counters in other ways, or perhaps other armies. So these round ones, they're actually from backgammon. I found a cheap backgammon set, so I grabbed that and painted these. These are red. I've got some blue ones too, so that way we can differentiate perhaps leaders or something along those lines. But as I said, we'll fight out that battle as it stands right now on the game table downstairs. And then I'm going to refight the same battle using the same army statistics, using the portable wargame rules, and then also using Tony Bath's abstract math rules. And we'll put that compare and contrast information on the Substack so that people can look at it, and we can use that data for working on siege rules that can be a little more in between in terms of setting up a whole miniatures game or just, doing the math. As for miniature hobbying, you can see here I have completed the gray army for the risk pieces. We've got the commanders, we've got your cavalry troops, and then your basic infantry here. The black powder situation really doesn't call for, I don't think, mass numbers of troops on these little bases, because I can use these for lots of different games, lots of different rules, and also they can be marked with perhaps some paint, perhaps a pin, or a magnet, something along those lines. So there's a lot of different things that we can do with these. Cannons, I think the cannons came out pretty good. So that's a lot of fun. Anyhow, so the gray army is done. So that's 2 armies completed. The blue army is also done. And then this is going to be the red army. So that'll give me, again, blue, red, and gray. So I can play American Civil War. I can play Napoleonics. There will be all kinds of different battles that we can play using these minis. Generally, I think they'll be used for very large scale battles, and also definitely for playtesting various grid-based rule sets. Also, I'm going to use them for the Imaginations campaign, which is going to start next year, which is just around the corner. I'm going to start that campaign in February after some introductory stuff that will come out in January. Your maps, determining forces, determining leaders, determining the settlements, the various factions that are involved in the battle. The strategic map itself will feature tiles and cubes moving about that represent the various armies. And like I said, the large-scale battles will use the Risk minis. And then our smaller tactical battles will be fought with the 15mm troops that are going on the 60mm wide bases. Also, various skirmish-style fights will be fought using those 15mm figures. And I just ordered some not Predators and not Xenomorphs to use for an exciting experimental battle of black powder soldiers versus aliens. So that should be fun. I was tweeting about that earlier today, and I think that I've piqued some folks' interest. So I did order those minis. As soon as they come in, I'm going to stop everything else and get them painted up, and then we'll be able to incorporate them into the hobby queue, as it were. So anyway, all of this will be detailed on the Substack alongside the HEXTRAIL and Fantasy Grid design elements. And I think it's readily apparent how all these projects will tie together and create a synergy. Now, another project that I'm going to commit to in 2023 involves this fun little notebook here. This is by Jacob Hurst. This is the World Builders Notebook. I picked it up as part of the Kickstarter. It's a pretty cool notebook. It's good quality, good paper. And this is going to be used with Sean McCoy's idea to make a 365 room mega dungeon with 12 levels. And we'll be creating 1 room per day and posting that on Twitter. I think what I'll do is also combine when the page gets full and post that on the blog, the Hobby Workshop. So watch for that. But this is kind of cool. I've been waiting for a project to come along to do something. I didn't know what I wanted to do with this. It's a nice notebook. I actually got a couple of them. And so it's broken up into sections. So this section is going to have the regional map, and these will represent 5-mile hexes. And these 12 hexes that you see here in the center of the page will be the area directly above the mega dungeon. Then we have these hex flower sections, and there's 12 of these. So we're going to do 12 here, right? And we'll use these hex flowers. These will be for the sub-hexes. I'm going to replace the artwork that's on these with artwork that actually matches up to coordinate with the size of the sub-hex. And that way we'll have the various layers and what have you that are available for each of those hexes. This book also comes with 12 isometric pages, And so I'm going to use these for special locations within the Mega Dungeon that need more elaboration, perhaps because I think the regular maps are going to be somewhat abstract, more flowchart-like as opposed to being super detailed. And then the next part here, we have 60 pages, or I should say 120 pages, 60 two-page spreads that are divided into 5 sections, which I've marked off here with colored tabs. And so each of these will be 1 week. There will be 7 rooms detailed on each spread. Obviously, some of the rooms will be empty. Some of the rooms, it might just say treasure. It might just say trap. There are some rules in existence for setting that out in various versions of Dungeons & Dragons rule sets, as well as this actual dungeon is going to be set up for low fantasy gaming. But anyway, each of these sections, so you can see there are 5 sections here. And so what we're going to do is each of these sections will be the domain, the purview of a faction. Each faction will have its own section that will most likely stretch out over multiple levels. So I think that by connecting the dungeon in different ways, we can make it really exciting that way. So like I said, each section will be for a different faction, and we'll have 12 connected areas for each one. So doing this project, now why am I doing this project? This project, like the Imaginations campaign, this will allow me to work out the writing project I've been working on for like 2 years, which is the Mega Dungeon and Wilderness Domain Synthesis project. And I've been kicking this around for about 2 years. And it needs to get done. And I always find something else to work on. So we're going to limit ourselves to these 2 big projects. Also, I found these, and I'll put links to these down in the description, but I found these cool desk pad. Can you see that? Hold on, let me pick this up. It's an 11 by 17 sheet, and it has a grid in the center, lines on either side, and then there's room for charts down here. It's 34 squares by 34 squares, which is pretty substantial. I'm going to be using multiple copies of this to display the maps for the full levels. Obviously, there will be more than 12 of these, as the entire dungeon complex is going to sprawl 15 miles north to south and 20 miles east to west. So there's a lot going on there. So I'm pretty excited about this. That gives us 5, count them, 5 big projects in 2023. However, they're really sort of tied together, tangled up together. The Imaginations campaign and the HEXTRAIL board game are going to work side by side, and playing the various battles in the Imaginations campaign will allow me to play test and refine the HEXTRAIL board game. Likewise, the Dungeon 23 project by Sean McCoy, that will allow me to put together the fantastic miniature wargame campaign guide, as well as the Fantasy Grid board game, because that will include subterranean mass combat. So all tangled up together, and still, although pointing in the same direction. So be sure to follow along on the Wargame Culture Substack. Hit the subscribe button on these videos so you can check out more videos as they come online. Again, thank you for watching, and keep on gaming.